when you gave a talk 4 years ago in Tartu, you might as well repeat half of what you said. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll add 5 more years, so to say, at the end of the talk, because many of you haven't seen the talk in Tartu. There's a paper you can read, but there's also messages in that paper written, co-authored by me, but written together with Tony Fox and Björn Laubek and all the people contributing. So I'm going to talk about moving northeast, an update of the numbering and distribution of wintering whoopie swans in continental Europe and Western Asia, where the moving northeast is mostly about the first population we're going to listen about. And I'll give you the results of the January 2020 census. And I work with a lot of people. These are actually the national coordinators, plus some good friends and colleagues that is helping with compiling all these data from this, perhaps from a North American perspective, small part of the world, but in our little Danish humble opinion, a huge part of the world. So lots of people involved, lots of birds counted every midwinter in the International Watch Bird Census. But what the International Watch Bird Census is not doing is actually getting all the swans, because many of the sites monitored in many countries are coastal areas where many of the swans nowadays don't occur. And I'll just illustrate that to you so you can get some lessons about that. The first international coordinated population count of the Northwest or the continental European whoopie swan population was orchestrated by Björn Laubek. And these counts have been made on a 5-year scale or schedule since then, involving all the countries where the birds are distributed. And for those not familiar with whoopie swan distributions, these are the five flyways we're working with. In the next talk, we'll hear about the Iceland population. And the one I'm talking about now is the westernmost in continental Europe, wintering population that is found in this region of Europe. When it comes to the international water bird census counts, the total numbers reported up to 2015 of this population is up to 40,000 birds counted in these near coastal areas. The trouble with that 40,000 birds is that in Denmark, when we do a complete national census alone in Denmark, we had in 2016 63,800 whoopie swans wintering. And the trouble with that is that if you look, if you add all the data up from you can see every 5 years we have all the countries in, all the reds is the Danish development, but every 5 years we actually get the full picture because all the countries are contributing. Germany is doing a massive count effort. Sweden is doing a massive count effort to cover the other 2 big countries in terms of numbers of whoopie swans. And the trouble in Denmark is that if you look at where the swans are distributed in the top right map, you can see that the sites that goes into international water bird census from Denmark, counted from either aircraft or counted from land, is not really where the swans are. So that's the trouble with these numbers. So we're improving that every 5 years, coming up with good numbers. But in Denmark, we actually do the count every year for the whoopie swans. We don't need to do the aerial surveys every year to do the whoopie swans because they're inland or near coastal. So this is the annual development until 2019. Right now, we're doing the 20 and 21 report for the National Ministry of Environment reporting duty or cycle. And I've added up the 2020 data for all the countries involved for the whoopie swan. We might add 3,000 or 4,000 more from Denmark. I'll know that 2 weeks after I'm back home, whether we will do that, because I have colleagues working on the 20 and 21 final figures. Anyway, the point is that if you look at the development from 95 to 2020, we've had a massive increase in the population size, but the last 2 counts are similar. We have the same numbers, but to make a story a little bit more exciting, if you have the same numbers, you can look into distributions. Now, these are the distribution maps. To the left is the 1995 distribution of the whoopie swan in Europe. And what you don't really see in this map is a lot of birds. We're missing birds over here in the northeast. We're not having so many birds in Poland. And actually on this map, I don't have the dots yet. He'll send me the coordinates with the numbers for Estonia, and I'll have to chase the last from Finland. But we have the total numbers from Estonia and Finland. So we have almost 1,200 in Estonia, 6,100 birds in Finland. And if you take the censuses from 95 until 2020, here you see the increase in numbers in these most eastern parts of the Baltic. Down below, we have Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. All of them increasing recently. And you also have a big jump in the Swedish wintering population over the last counts. So that's where I'm talking about swans moving northeast. But what happens within Germany is actually that also there are signs that more birds are going towards what was the former Eastern Germany part. So you can see the proportion in the 2020 count was 67%. But of course, you will also note that the first 95 count was 75%. So what we will have to do before we do the final paper is actually looking into winter severity exactly in these winters, because the overall picture is that winters are getting milder. So we'll have the movement of these swans to the northeast, or expect to see it. But these specific winters, how were they actually? So we'll have to look into that. There's 2 years missing in the German time series there because of the 2010 census they had to cancel or they didn't do the entire country because massive snowstorms came in just before the count weekend, and it was just impossible to go out where the swans were expected to be in many areas. And year 2000 is in a way lost because the coordinator went somewhere else and never finished the job. So that's the issue with Germany in those 2 years. Sweden, over to the left, you have the split of the Swedish population from 95 to 2020 into all the regional lanes of Sweden, which is the regional units. But if you sort of combine them into just 5 regions, where the south is those 3 provinces, the Midwest is the western part of the blue, the east, Mid-East is the eastern part of the blue, the southern part of the north goes up to the yellow, and then the northern part of the north is the rest of Sweden. And actually, there are also some signs there that we have a smaller proportion of the Swedish population actually wintering in the south, and an increasing in the Mid-East. So to say, further north, it's still severe winter even from swan perspective. So things are happening over there. Now, moving east, we're not anywhere near compiling data from all these countries. We have data from the green countries. We have issues to settle with the remaining countries, and right now it's war over there, so it's actually a problematic issue to get these things done and so on. Anyway, the population there, which is the 3rd one in line, is a very small population apparently, unless we get good data from some of the other countries. While for the 4th population, we have a massive number of whoopie swans. This number from the Caspian Volga region has been estimated by Sonja Rosenfeld, doing a lot of transect surveys. So she's actually counting numbers and then scaling up. proportionally using methods I'm not completely familiar with. But anyway, big numbers in the southern part of Russia, near the Caspian Sea and the Volga Delta, and 178,000 birds at most. So that's the words I was going to tell you. Obviously, complete national censuses are needed for Hooper swans. We had to strengthen our accounts in the north and east because birds are moving in there. So larger areas have to be covered in the future, and we'll have to do them together again. But perhaps we'll switch to a 6-year cycle. We'll discuss that on Swan meeting. But the reason is that the European Union legislation update cycling is 6 years. So Wetlands International, and we are advocating very much to do it in either a 3 or 6-year cycle. Now, Denmark is doing our complete national census in 2023. So we're ready to swap to a 3-year cycle in 2 months' time. But I'm not sure the Germans are. So we might jump to 6 and then later on consider whether it could be a 3-year cycle for the Hooper swans and the Buicks. Thanks. That's the word from me.